now. So Gabriel is the headmaster. He's the mastermind and the evil master behind all of this. And as I said, nothing of this would be possible without his enthusiasm. And going back to the Greek word enthusiasm, like taken by a god. Gabriel sometimes acts like he was taken by a god, sometimes Ares, sometimes Dionysus, and sometimes Apollo, and very, very emotional and very clever all the time. Gabriel is our big friend, the head of this event, professor here at UFRJ, and more and more and more. I won't go on his CV, just to say we're honored to hear you, Gabriel.
Oh, it's there. We can exchange. I prefer the blue one. Just kidding. So I am sharing. Já estou compartilhando os slides, não? Não. Vai ser aquele problema de ir e voltar, meu Deus. Sorry, it's always this problem. This new bug on Zoom. Because if you make your slides presentation mode, you cannot share. And then... Você já me botou para compartilhar? I can withdraw the mask of the speaker. Okay, thanks. Presentation mode. Do you guys see it? No, not yet. Okay, I see. Conseguiu? Okay, let's try it again. Stop sharing and sharing again. It's the new bug from Zoom. It's happening everywhere. I took part of the 6 bioethics, international bioethics, neuroethics, and okay. So like my Zoom interface, it's asking me to join again. I don't know what's happening. Do I leave the webinar and come back again, maybe? To stop the bug? I'll try it. That's bizarre. The most bizarre thing, this is the professional webinar, and you pay for it. Agora eu tive que entrar de novo, sair e entrar. Eu vou botar compartilhar. Ó. Vai ter que... Não, entrei com o meu e-mail. O que tá vendo? Você me bota para dentro. Right, maybe I'll start to like a joke or something to amuse you. Renato didn't tell you the second part of the story. Is not that he just gave a talk in Bermuda shorts the next day. It was that he was like kind of doing the striptease session. First, after this, the first talk, he withdraws the tie, and then he withdraw the vest, and then he takes out the jacket, and then he opens one bottle, and then he said, "Look, I will not go with, for lunch with you guys because I want to buy some tropical clothes." So I'm muted. or that generated
generated
double
double
capitation.
capitation.
Join as a
Join as a
panelist.
panelist.
Now probably will work. Rejoining. Are we transmitting this? That's ridiculous. And now the
Other
slides.
slides.
Share screen.
Screen.
Okay.
Okay.
And
And now we have to make presentation mode. Probably the bug will appear again. Presentation mode.
Okay.
Okay.
But
Again, it's not working as a presentation.
I
am seeing a full screen. You're not seeing a full screen. That's bizarre. You didn't change anything? So I stop sharing. Maybe. Now,
can you make me?
Você
Você pode
me fazer
dividir
de
a tela?
tela? Você
Puxar o
puxar o
controle?
controle?
Já botei.
Já botei. Now we're talking. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I mean, I was already presented. So but I don't know what's happening, but I'm not controlling my own slides. Let's see now. Okay, I'll have to choose this control here. Okay. So I'll talk about the name of my talk is decision-making levels of freedom
in quest for ecological relevance. No, that's wrong. That's
6 months ago.
What's
What's
happening?
happening? That was the June conference. I can't believe that. Sorry, people. No, this is December here. Okay.
Let me
check if this is the correct one.
Yeah, okay.
That's the correct one. Okay. So I made the
But then
the Zoom interface does not appear. It's kind of bug is this one. Zoom. Oh my gosh.
That's
why I said the best thing is to use everything there, you know.
I'm sorry,
people, but what are we going to do here? It says to me to join again. That's unbelievable. No, I don't. Bruno, pede para ele compartilhar minha tela. Compartilha minha tela. Não. Olha só, o que eu estou te pedindo é o seguinte: quando você me faz panelista, você não pode gerar o compartilhamento? Tá travado. Não é o que? Aí, ó.
Você saiu, cara.
Como que eu saí? Eu tô aparecendo aqui, ó.
Não, esse aqui é o teatro, cara. Você tem que entrar.
Mas eu já tava dentro.
Pois é. Calma, join me ali. Fecha. Fecha.
Fecha aqui?
Isso aí. Yes.
Leave webinar. I'm inside, you see? It's a bug.
Logar de novo. This is the third time that has happening. O que você está fazendo, cara? Unbelievable, man. Oh, look, join meeting. isso mesmo. Não. Não. Hã? 9h29. 84. 39. That's quite stressing. É a mesma coisa. Vai precisar do e-mail de novo. Agora foi.
Recording in progress.
Ok.
Transforma ele em
Panelista. Panelist. Join as a panelist. Ok. Atlas. Full screen. E agora, share screen. Ok, let's go. Não, vou ter que passar os slides aqui. Não está funcionando. It's not working. I have to do it here. Sorry for the technical problems. We are resuming our activities again. So today I'm talking about 3 apparently unrelated subjects: fire, chess, and giving gifts. I will try to, that was part of my presentation. This first part's the same as my presentation in June, but what I brought as new evidence on an EEG experiment. So, okay, June 11, 1963. Take a look at this picture. Take a serious look at this picture. There's a man in Zazen meditation position, burning his own body. It's not he's burning his own body, consciously willing to do it. He is in Zazen position. He trained his whole life to get this level of self-control. And especially the decision of the self-immolation was 2 weeks before the actual suicidal episode. So this is Tin Quan Duc, a Vietnamese Mahayana Buddhist monk. His self-immolation was against the persecutions of Buddhists in South Vietnamese. Can we come back a little bit more on time? Okay, April 24, 1963. He has this insight during meditation. And he's getting confidence enough to talk with the senior abbot to say he's ready for that, ready for self-immolation. And during supper, while he slowly slurps his rice pottage, after he calmly washes his bowl, he approaches the senior abbot to tell his decision. He asks permission to the senior abbot to self-immolate. And the senior abbot allows him to self-immolate, but recommends what is called a half-moon cycle of preparation, meaning 2 weeks. 2 weeks just meditating with special diet to be ready for self-immolation. So I cannot imagine an act that is more deliberated, a test delay act than that. Okay? Yeah, the control here is not working. I have to do it straight to this interface. Okay. So we have this parade with all the monks and nuns, they go to this square. Sorry, I said Zazeno, it's lotus position. He recites, before dying, actually another monk offers himself to self-immolate in his place. I said, and he responds, respect my seniority. He's proud of dying for defending his mates. He responds, he has the option to give up about dying, but he prefers, he responds, respect my seniority. He's absolutely resolute of what he's doing. He prepared for that. He recites a prayer, and then a gallon of gasoline, or it was diesel, or whatever, and he strikes a match, dropping his own self. Bang. Okay, self-immolations by burning one's entire body is extremely rare. Let's talk about more common actions still within the fire as a subject. The cigarette ember case. I bet that everyone here was already burned by someone in a party or in a concert. Someone may be drunk or someone clumsy that just touches the ember in your skin. What do? Boop, withdrawal reflex. Okay, the withdrawal reflex, nociceptive flexion reflex, or flexor withdrawal reflex, is a spinal reflex intended to protect the body for damaging stimuli. Human Anatomy and Physiology, standard publication, standard literature. The reflex rapidly coordinates the contractions of all the flexor muscles and the relaxations of the sternors in that limb, causing sudden withdrawal from the potential and damaging stimulus. That's Kandel's book. Again, standard literature. And the spinal reflexes are monosynaptic. This kind of reflex we're talking about is polysynaptic, so it's a little bit more complex. So we're not talking about the simplest motor action you can have is already polysynaptic. Okay, the Bunsen burner and the Petri dish with bacteria. The bacteria can't do otherwise. They just run away from the Bunsen burner. The bacteria just go to the other side of the Petri dish. They have no option. I mean, we, too neurotypical, and the pun with Nietzsche is intended here, we don't have the same level of self-control of that monk. The monk has extremely augmented the physiologic realize, a completely physicalist, okay? Though he has what I'm calling is augmented physiologic realized capacities. I withdraw my arm from the ember. The bacteria run away from the Bunsen burner, but the monk could control his movements. He doesn't move a single major muscle group. He just contracts a little bit the orbis orbicularis here. It's impressive. Okay, I take as truisms in the sense of G. Moore or Wittgenstein uncertainty, that, but a little less pedestrian and a little bit more scientifically informed, because as Quine said, science is not a substitute for common sense, but an extension of it, okay? So what I'm taking for granted here, before I talk about the, can we agree that the monk immolation is a voluntary action and the withdrawal reflex of the cigarette ember was an involuntary action? I really need to have some consensus here. I mean, the monk is a voluntary action. The withdrawal reflex is a voluntary action. As I don't know what happens with the bacteria, but they cannot do otherwise. But I'll not judge how they are doing, if they have any level of consciousness. Okay, so I take that as a truism. I think it's very difficult to dispute that the first is a voluntary action, the second is an involuntary action. Okay. Okay. Now I want to talk about mental causation, psychologically influenced processes. We all believe that the best medicines and vaccines, oh, Alexa C here, maybe Portuguese influence. Do you believe that any medicines, vaccines have to go through double-blind, placebo-controlled clinical trials? I believe on those processes, those kind of clinical tests. So if you believe that, do you think that the placebo has its effect because of the starch? Or do you believe that the placebo has its effect because of the psychological causes? You probably believe in if you believe in double-blind, placebo-controlled clinical trials, if you choose what kind of vaccine you're gonna use, you believe in mental causation. Or you don't believe in clinical trials because the placebo effect is a proof that mental causation has relevance because a psychological cause. It's not because of the starch. Okay? So again, for me, this is a truism. If you want to dispute, I'm ready for fighting for this claim. Okay. I mean, I have to cite the Spanish poet and Nelson Rodriguez also that talk about that. I'm here in front of this pulpit as a bull missing wounds. I'm here to dispute truth, and I'm ready to lose as well. So feel free to jump in. You don't have to treat me well. The worse you treat me, the more I'm gonna learn. Okay, and actually, the placebo effect is pretty well studied. I mean, you have huge middle frontal gyrus activity when you take placebo. I mean, the people who have effects with placebo. If you get the people that say, yeah, the placebo, they don't know, of course, there is placebo, but they report, hey, yeah, I'm feeling less pain. Those are there's positive correlations between placebo effect and middle frontal gyrus, which makes 1/3 of the frontal lobe. That's not a coincidence, okay? Okay, that is just, I'm just using this evidence to say that I believe in mental causation, and I believe in self-control, and I explain why I believe in mental causation, self-control, not appealing to one single terrible metaphysical concept, but just about well-interpreted, conceptually well-interpreted physiological data. Okay, if you don't believe that consciousness makes a difference, try to bypass consciousness. You're gonna see what happens. In this article, article that I wrote with my brother, To Buy or Not to Buy, Stupid Pun with Shakespeare, a review of effective rhyming and purchase decision. We review all literature that was not that long, this short literature, especially at that moment, 2012, about priming purchase decision. If your consciousness is bypassed, you just buy things that you don't want, you don't need. I mean, it's impressive. I mean, of course, recently you've seen a lot of controversy among researchers that work with priming in general, saying that the effects are not that big. But even though, when you have some form of emotional priming, when you have subliminal stimulus, and when you bypass consciousness, we have different results. And that's enough to prove that consciousness makes a difference. Consciousness makes a difference. Okay, if you still don't believe that consciousness makes a difference, let me show you this experiment. I have some slides in Portuguese, some slides in English, but even though I talk in English, the interpreters are doing a great job. So this is an experiment by Cunningham, what he shows, the population, this experiment is white Americans. And they have in the screen both Afro-Americans, Black Americans, and white Americans. And they have different amida processing for those cases. When they have the lined dots are Black people in subliminal mode. And the dotted line is, the red line is white people in subliminal mode. And what we see, they have a complete inverse correlation between the amygdala time courses. What explains that? Frontal lobe areas repressing let us say the racist behavior, the non-acceptable behavior. Too many details. Now a slightly more contentious claim. Is the monk decision what Peter calls free will type 2? Maybe a very radical case of it. I wouldn't use this vocabulary. I'll call it simply very semantic loaded information processing. I don't want to talk about free will 1, free will 2. I will say this is highly culturally influenced information processing that depends on the frontal lobes and very complex decision making. That's what I want to call it. 6 months ago, someone said that I'm not concerned with a particular event when the final decision is made. I am concerned with the whole process. I am especially concerned with decisions made on moral grounds. Who said that to whom in our June event? Anyone remembers? Was Walter Sinnott Armstrong to Marcel. He was pressing Marcel to give an account of not just the timing and when decisions, but also the whole process. So I mean, I think that the case of a monk shows clearly a decision made on moral grounds and also a long-term process that is coherent a long time. Okay, so now I'm gonna define decision-making. The traditional idea of free will in its metaphysically full-blown sense, one of an action without causal antecedents or free of any constraint is on pair with other scientifically superannuated ideas, vitalism, phlogiston, and geocentrism. So that's the negative part. Positive part, our decisional capacity is completely elicited by causal and determinative conditions of our brain along the rest of the body environment, including social, cultural, and other semantic loaded based conditions in its interactive commerce of information. Any external semantic or cultural conditions that could possibly make a difference in our decisional process must be internalized and encoded in our brains by any other information processing mechanism any entities could possibly have to guide their interaction with environments. Co-evolution and co-adaptation are widespread processes in nature. That's important. I mean, we have an air conditioning here. we shape our environment in the same way that our environment shapes us as well. It's a negotiation, permanent negotiation with the environment. Okay, now let's shift gears to chess. So we had this, I mean, this is more, it's not experimental philosophy, it's not neuroscience, this is experimental psychology. We did this, we run this, also was a problem with the pandemics. We had perfectly parameterized design, but with the pandemics, part of the post-test was delayed. And we had like less people on the post-test, but there's the impact of chess learning in IQ of children from 8 to 10 years old. And Peter said yesterday, IQ is very genetically influenced. But even though I'll show you that we can generate impacts, our IQ increase in children just by learning chess. Okay, so, I mean, there's this famous quote, chess is very good for for learning how to play chess. Practicing chess is good for learning. But people usually take for granted that chess augments intelligence. And that's not well proved. The only good experiment in the classic experiments was the Groot, a Dutch researcher that showed that chess augments attention. That was well proved. But why I think, what do intelligence, learning, and chess have to do with decision making? Chess is a sort of very rational decision making, weighting among multiple possible courses of action. Which one is more promising? We deal with choices among thousands of possibilities. Chess depends on long-term planning. The strategy during the decision-making process has to be consistent in a long time. Intelligence makes a difference in making a better decision. And what about learning? What about learning? Our method was fully based on decision-making in increasingly challenging scenarios. And it's all about logical puzzle solving. And just remember what Peter said earlier about self-forming actions. Learning is a self-forming action, okay? So the kids start with puzzles easy like that, and then they are solving in 3 months, highly difficult puzzles like that. And I want to get rid of this window, okay. And I see a great relationship between, first of all, choice and playing chess, and also with self-control. That's this famous quote for Kasparov. Kasparov was kind of destroyed by Petrosian. There was not comparable to Kasparov in any sense in terms of intelligence, in terms of brilliance. And Kasparov said, why I've lost this game? Because I was showing off, I was showboating. I was trying to play as flamboyant as possible. And he compares his defeat to Brazil to Italy in 1982 World Cup. I mean, sometimes you have to defend yourself. You have to be more rational, take less risk. So chess really depends on self-control and proper use of rationality, measured use of rationality. And there's this excellent quote by Stanley Kubrick, the filmmaker, among a great many other things that chess teaches you is to control the initial excitement when you feel and you see something that looks good. It trains you to think before grabbing and to think just as objectively when you are in trouble. I think it's an excellent quote. Okay, well, I'll skip some of them. This is the classic literature, the OGs of chess research, the old gangsters of the field. This is a great meta-analysis that compares all the studies on chess. We read all that to prepare our study. And then Gobet and Capitelli, Gobet is from Switzerland, Capitelli is from Switzerland as well. I don't know of Italy, but or the borders of Switzerland and Italy. But what they show is that there was no experiment that control all these variables: random allocation, pretest, post-test, control group 1, control group 2, different teacher and tester, subjects blind to the experiment. So what we do, we did it. We did it the proper way. No one had done it before. We said, let's do it. So let's follow all this variable control and see what happens. But beyond, he calls it the ideal experiment. So we did the ideal experiment. And beyond the ideal experiment, we used 4 extra controls. This a control methodology to teach chess. Non-involvement of author in the data collection or in the nor in the data collection nor in the intervention. You use trustable, replicable testing, which was the Wechsler 4 for children, most internationalized IQ test, and a fully factorial analysis with patronized population in terms of gender and age. What was the placebo? The The placebo was really relevant one. The kids that were not, there were those kids that did nothing, because at that age, the development is so fast. So we have to do pre and post tests to see the natural development of those children. The placebo one was checkers, backgammon, reversing, and naval battle. So, I mean, that's really a good placebo compared to chess, other board games, or the very rational board games. Okay, results. This research was, as Renato said, that his research was, somehow harmed by the pandemics. Mine also. I mean, we cannot enter the school again to do the post test, but so we first we're dealing with ANOVA and ANCOVA, so we have to go to U of M Whitney and other non-parametric analysis as well to compensate that we have like 60 kids in the first pre-test and just 43 or something like that at the post-test. But, okay. But what we have here in terms of results, those are like, I mean, I don't want to be cocky, but those are, it's still unpublished. I'm doing the stupidity of even a talk of unpublished data, but anyways, we have striking results. We really could show the speed processing index augments in kids after 3 months of very careful chess intervention. So they have better result in the code testing, in searching for symbols, and canceling. As someone that studies decision making, I love the idea that chess augments canceling, because if you know you have a clue of how playing chess, you're gonna pay attention to the part that's problematic and not pay attention to the part that's not problematic. And I was very influenced by William James, and I think that the intentional attention is one of the keys to understand free will. So the fact that chess augments the capacity to have better canceling, to have attentional shifts, I think that's something that shows there you are intentionally controlling the mental, the resources you are applying to your stimulus. You're controlling and saying, yeah, okay, I don't have to care about the king. I'm rocked. Yeah, I have to care about this side. And they have better results with cubes as well. So digits, obvious, codes, searching for symbols, of course, because I mean, what are the chess pieces? Symbols and cubes. But I was very, I was kind of frustrated that matricial reasoning had no difference. Because I mean, I've just thought chess is an 8x8 matrix. Of course, you're gonna, in the various hypotheses we have, we thought that matricial reasoning would be one of those that will be affected, was positively affected, was not the case. But the other, all other hypotheses were confirmed. Okay, let's shift gears to ecological relevance. This is a very classic paper by O'Connor, Goldberg, Kenneth Podol, Adaptive Decision-Making, Ecological Validity, and the Frontal Lobes. What I want to say about that is that as a philosopher, I don't believe that ecological validity is the same thing of ecological relevance. Validity is a binary predicate. Or it's valid or it's not valid. But relevance can come in grades. So you can mimic better costs and risks of real life. But you can have an experiment that does not show much in terms of something that is relevant to your daily routines. For example, Libet's experiment has 0 ecological relevance. The one that I show about racism has some ecological relevance, but I want to show you something, okay, that really has ecological relevance. So, yeah, just to remember that Libet's. And I just want to provoke the community here that I think Libet does not disprove free will because of the pre-plans there. If you have pre-plans, you have conscious will, okay? I mean, can we agree that I have pre-plans, so we're consciously willing something, come on. Okay, so that was the special edition. There was a special editor for Frontiers in Decision Neuroscience, which I had the pleasure to have Adina as one of the authors. That was what brought me to my sabbatical in Canada. I reserved this paper, Distinction Between Externally versus Externally Guided Decision-Making, Operational Differences, Meta-Analytical Comparisons, and their theoretical implications. Northoff, who is German, who was my supervisor in Canada, and his Japanese collaborators, Takashi and Hideki. So that was and I was the editor, but was suspicious that I could contribute to this paper. So I assigned my own self as a reviewer as well. So that's what I received. And I know that Northoff is very Kantian. So he thinks internally guided decision-making, externally guided decision-making. And I mean, you know how difficult it is to do meta-analysis, especially when you're squashing 300 decision-making experiments in one meta-analysis. But what I said to them, look, I don't buy this Kantian thing of externally guided and internally guided decision-making. I think we can split the categories into three. So what's happened? When they use three categories, and they have one category just with social decision-making, a new network appears. That's very nice. That shows how good conceptual analysis. The question is, how could you completely get rid of metaphysical concepts? They are always there. So that's talking about being Aristotelian or neo-Aristotelian, Peter. That's exactly being very neo-Aristotelian. Just because we rearranged the concepts, we promoted a new empirical evidence. When you select just the externally guided experiments, there has some social implication. You have dorsal medial prefrontal cortex and insular frontal gyres working there, just because we rearranged the concepts. So after that, Northoff said to me, look, if you can just use conceptual analysis, I mean, of course, we kind of mad at you at the beginning because you have to redo the whole analysis, but that's very nice. Just by a philosophical insight, you made our team discover something new. I prefer to have you as a collaborator than a reviewer. And sometimes the thing works. I have to go here. Okay, so that's not a fake. There's a real taxi cab driver's license that De Niro used to make an immersion of a life of a taxi driver in the nights of New York. That's how kind of a feeling go into a neuroscience lab. Like it's like an immersion. I criticize those guys. I better try to understand how they work. But you know what? After studying doing experimental research, you can't stop it. It's so much fun. It's impressive. So at the end, the various designs that we tried to devise, we got the same. Some are part of the same authors, our Japanese collaborators, and they have this research. There was, again, internally versus externally guided decision-making, and comparing preference of colors and occupations, professions. I had a series of problems with these experiments. Why? I mean, they show a very nice N2 effects, and but I thought that the idea of like, first of all, don't think occupations are very subjective, and I mean, there's a social side of it. There's the occupation determines a lot of your social life. So it's not something that, it's just a preference. No, I think it's very socially oriented. It's very influenced by your culture, by economic criteria, and also color. I mean, I cannot understand which color you prefer without a context. I mean, which color for a shirt, for curtains, for, I don't know, chairs? It makes all difference. So if you ask me, what color you prefer, for what? I don't even understand the question, what color you prefer. So what we did, based on this experiment, we did some ameliorations, and we run an experiment that I think is extremely ecologically relevant. The gift experiment, it's called. So that's why I covered the part of giving gifts. Let's see. So what was our guidelines? First of all, we are trying to avoid this purely university samples. You know, we contracted people from Kijiji and Craigslist. You know, right? Not just students. I had to take this thing, otherwise I cannot read my screen. So we're trying to look on one specific kind of social decision, empathetic decision, pathetic decision making. And I'm very human in the sense. I think empathetic decision making is a projection of oneself, the self of the participant, into another self. In the case, I imagine person, a real person that is being considered in imagination. So it permits to have a continuum between self and non-self conditions instead of a binary thing. This strategy was never explored before. The introduction of the conflict between purely hedonic block versus a hedonic economic conflict block was used to empirically test how much price as external factor. Price is always an external factor. You can love something, but it's too expensive. Yeah, maybe not. So I don't understand why the keyboard sometimes works, sometimes not. Okay, I'll do it here. First of all, the preparation for the experiment. Research by opinion poll of patterns of gift giving in Canada, because I was a Brazilian. How would I understand the Canadians giving gifts? I have to study that. So what I did, we got spontaneous citation opinion polls, like top of mind, of 60 people saying, well, what kind of gift do you give to a friend in his or her birthday? So you get that. And there was the researchers conducted in various cafes in the city of Ottawa. Results led to the conclusion that books, chocolate boxes, and bottles of wine were the most common gifts in people between 19 and 30. Okay? Typically, Canadian items existing in leading companies in the market were chosen, like Amazon, Shoppers, Walmart, and LCBO for wines. A validation of this stimuli was conducted with different population. We got, after the 60, that we have the spontaneous citation of gifts, kind of gifts they usually give to friends. We go to validation of the stimuli. And then we had 23 right-handed people within certain income brackets, age brackets, and people don't have any history of alcohol or drug abuse because we're testing wine as one of the stimuli, blah, blah, blah. So that was the validation of the stimuli. We tested how people perceive in terms of arousal, attractiveness, contrast, estimated price, graspability, familiarity, luminance, self-relatedness, and trustability. We used SurveyMonkey to do that. So we choose 4 books, 4 bottles of wine, and 4 chocolate boxes. Similar images were meticulously controlled and normalized in terms of the 9 criteria mentioned in the last slide. The 3 types of stimuli were organizing for compatible categories of price value. And so we had 66 slides in 3 conditions in each block, 190 trials in each block, 2 blocks, a total of 396 trials. So that was our stimuli. In terms of like the Chianti, 2 typically Canadian wines, 2 foreigner wines, chocolate the same, 2 international brands, 2 Canadian brands, and the books 2, we use just Canadian books or Canadian authors, but we try to have 2 female authors and 2 male authors also to balance in terms of gender. Okay, so which are the questions? Then I'm kind of proud of this experiment because those were like hypotheses they all had as a philosopher, and I had the opportunity to test them. So I wanted to go for a first person, second person, and third person type of question. So which of those gifts for yourself is a completely subjective thing? It's first person. Second question, which product is more expensive? Even of course, if price depends on the economy of a country and such an economic situation, it's something that has an objective response. As the first one has a subjective response, this one has an objective response. And the third question is a second person response. Which of those gifts for your friends? And then comes the complicated part. What kind of criteria you use to define this friend that you will be picking up a gift for? So it was said, the queuing for the empathetic condition, or who is this friend? It was said to the participants to choose one friend and imagine the same friend across all trials. Also, it was said that this friend was not supposed to be a partner, girlfriend, boyfriend, wife, husband. I mean, no sexual interest involved. Also, it was said that that friend was not supposed to be the best friend of an old friend. It was said positively to imagine a very good acquaintance who they know the taste reasonably well, but they would like to get closer, to have a more, like a stronger relationship. And this measure was taken intentionally to augment the empathetic, multi-intentional effort. First block, hedonic decisions. So that's why they have like a box of chocolates and a book. Which of those gifts you get? Left button for the gift in the left side, right button to the gift to the side. Okay. And then you ask me, but you use chocolate. Did you control for physiological influences? Of course. We had a special diet for our participants. I mean, there is no free lunch. There's the same, but in our lab, we had free breakfast. So we requested the participants to arrive at the lab fasting, and then they eat ad libitum until satiety. And basically the diet was sandwiches, whole grain bread, mozzarella cheese, cream cheese, plus orange and apple juices. And we had an alternative course of meal for the vegetarians. There was tofu sandwiches with peanut butter. So that's what a way to control let us say the homeostatic level that they were. Everyone was was ad libitum satiated. So again, so we have trials, book to books and wines and blah, blah, blah. Second block, as the rapper and poet Criollo says, money comes to confuse love. So then what we're comparing purely hedonic decision-making, like in the first block, to economic versus hedonic versus economic criteria in the second block. So while we have prices to confuse love, to see how cheap you are with that friend. Would you give the Cabernet Sauvignon the $37.29, or you go for the chocolate box? It's just $18. So that was the flow of the experiment. Fixation cross, 800 milliseconds. The question of the condition with a trigger, 1,500 milliseconds, inter-trial interval with jitter window from 3,000 milliseconds to 400 milliseconds. The presentation of the stimulus against with a trigger and free time for decision making, because in real life I have free time for decision making. You don't miss trials in real life. I mean, sometimes you miss opportunities, let us say, but okay, but that was really, if you see, that's really comparable to a Amazon compare products function. Do you remember that? You call it compare products in Amazon. It's kind of very realistic. So first one of the 3 slides with the 3 questions, then the G-trade, then in the first block, just hedonic decision making, just based on pleasure. The second block with prices. And then again, inter-trial interval G-trade. And after that, the same questionnaire that was used to validate the stimuli is used also as behavior data to see how the actual participants perceive those objects. And that comes the fun part. That's real ecological relevance. The monetary compensation they had was $40 plus $20. The $20 was actually applied in one of their choices. That was said to the participants, one of your choices will count for real. And the computer selected randomly one of the choices. So we had, I mean, first the lab was like an industry of sandwiches. And then we had also a pharmacy there. We have these chocolate boxes and books to give to people when the experiment finished. So they took real Carol Shields and Last books to their homes. They took home also Lind Swiss luxury chocolate boxes. That was, they taken one of those, because that's why we augmented the value of their monetary compensation. And to have something like that approved, to say we're not withdrawing money for the participants, but we want him to force them to experience that they are really paying for that. Okay, so they took really seriously. If you see that people are really motivated to take the thing seriously, because we are trying to make the real costs and risks of decision making. Okay, some behavior results. I'll not show you the EEG data. I screwed one of my triggers yesterday. I forgot to unclick one box, and I just overwritten trigger 12 and trigger 11. But I'll show you some reaction times and standard deviation. So the reaction times in the block that was just based on hedonic decision making, they spend much more time in third person condition and in second person and first person condition. So the purely subjective decisions were the faster. The second person decisions were a little bit slower, and the third person decisions were much slower. Guessing the objective price of something took more time than to decide what we prefer. That's kind of obvious. Well, so that's the results. In terms of correlations, we have no significant correlations between second person and first person. Very highly strong correlations between third person and first person, negative correlations, of course, and very strong correlations between third person and second person. Second block, exactly the inverted, the specular scenario. It's like the mirror thing. Third person was much faster, and second person much slower, and first person even slower, even more slower. Well, sorry, that sounds bad. I mean, it was the slowest list. Why? When you have price as an external factor, is a constraint, you take more time to say what I really prefer. Am I available? Am I motivated to spend all that money in this wine bottle? Okay. I know some of the EEG results, so I mean, we have a lot of fun for the future months. But so yeah, so the reaction time had exactly the mirror image of the first block. That's a lot of fun. That's exactly what we hypothesized. So we are very happy on that. But there was an unexpected finding. Women are much faster than men in all conditions. I mean, when you devise the experiment, you consider that the population not have a lot of variation in terms of gender, but at the end, women were much faster than men in decisions of that type. Okay, so what are you gonna plan to do? Event-related potential and its correlation with full factorial analysis. Among ERPs, we obviously will give special attention to N2. Among ERPs, special attention to redness potential, event-related spectrum perturbations, intertrial coherence, predictions of actual decisions based on resting state, or what, as I prefer to call it, ongoing intrinsic activity, and Loretta. But I'm open to suggestions. We have a very qualified crowd here that can give me like hints of, this kind of design while you will explore. Conclusions: consciousness and rationality make a difference. If you want to address the question previously called free will, you need to be in the quest for ecological relevance. Attention, intelligence, and self-control makes a difference in decision-making processes. Maybe we can think of terms of level of more freedom or independence of external factors versus levels of less freedom or more dependence on external cues and constraints. And more internally guided decisions versus more externally guided constrained decisions are probably a paradigmatic case of the issue above, as a kind of a subset. Attention, intelligence, and self-control definitely make a difference in decision-making processes. Thanks a lot. I'm open to questions. I mean, this is ongoing research, but that's what we have for today. The things are not ready, but I'll show you what I'm doing right now. Você pode levantar um pouquinho o microfone vermelho, o volume?
Agora sim.
Questions?
Just one thing, the guys at security told us that
we had to leave very soon.
Yes, so
but we had so many technical problems, and you extrapolated the time like 20 minutes.
So I want to challenge your monk story. So certainly the decision to burn himself was a conscious decision. It's a decision that you and me could maybe also make. Maybe also put some gasoline over us and strike a match. But what wasn't really a conscious decision, but the result of extensive training, was that he could withhold his reflexes to react to the pain.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this was presumably extremely habitual and the results of months and presumably years of training.
Yeah, that's a great question. What I'll respond from the top of my mind now is the following. I think if he relaxes, relax is not a good term. If he doesn't keep the effort of being in that position and maintaining that level of meditation and self-control, he'll start to feel pain. He'll start to behave in other, will start to be behaving otherwise. I think there's an effort of maintaining that state, and that the effort of maintaining the state is first of all, is a lot of effort and is way beyond your normal homeostatic level. It's like when you have to finish a presentation or a paper and you keep yourself, awake during the whole night and you're drinking coffee like crazy. It's that for normal people like us, maintaining the effort to be there, focus on a paper and finishing a paper. And I think there was a big effort even for a guy that had 36,000 hours of meditation. I mean, that's something that the research of Antoine Lutz and Richardson shows. I mean, the more trained you are, the effort is not that impressive. It's not that difficult, but it still is an effort. So I think if the monk lost his focus in a single second, he will not be able to keep what he was doing. I think there's a voluntary effort on that. I mean, how do you prove it? I think those researchers of Antoine Lutz and Richardson on meditation actually have an article reviewing those evidence. I think they what they show is about maintaining a certain state. Like when you try to maintain focus, you're already like kind of sleepy and you're like, I don't know, driving for a long time, like a big ride, and you say, I have to maintain my focus, otherwise I'll die. I mean, there's no motel nearby, and I have to maintain my focus. I have to arrive there. They are passing by something similar, but like this is like that's Champions League level when you're doing like second division of Brazilian soccer, probably. That's the comparison. I'll do it, but I think there's a necessity of applying physiological resources to keep this state. I don't know if that responds you or if you.
Honestly, I don't know, but I mean, the way
that's my guess. I can prove it as well. I just figure by the type of research we have on meditation, that we can suggest that maybe there's a difficulty in maintaining a certain high level of information processing, and we know the circuitry that is involved. It's if you're doing 1 point concentration, all the rational, like, let us say, the executive functions are.
I simply wanted to say the way you developed the story was about conscious decision to burn himself, and not about the act of withholding the automatic response to pain.
Okay, exactly. That's my main point. I think there is a conscious effort to withdraw a very basic reflex. There is something that evolution equipped us with to make survival possible, to make survival easier. And that the kind of generous act he was doing, self-immolation, I mean, it's something that kind of denies on the principles of survivability. So, I mean, we are in a such level of control that we attempt against our own survivability in the name of a community. That's what I'm talking about. What I'm saying that he's doing a sustained effort to deny, to self-control against very basic physiologic-driven automatized behavior. I think that's self-control, and and exactly as William James said, inhibitory physiological capacities is exactly what I'm talking about when I'm talking about moral and self-control. That's that kind of relationship I'm trying to do. That's the inhibitory capacities. Exactly what allow us to avoid punching that person that has very bad behavior in the face, or avoiding saying something that's not convenient in a certain situation, or avoiding withdrawal reflexes when you're burning your own body to death. That's my claim. I don't know if you buy it, if you think it's I don't know. Please.
Oh, I mean, me neither. I simply wanted to say, I think it's not enough to want to burn you. That's something a lot of people can do. But withholding this thing is presumably something extremely overlearned.
Okay, that's great. You're saying that that's not sufficient cause. I totally agree. That's why I'm
just to make comment, because I want to add something to this equation.
Great.
There is one particular thing on the monkey. He's morally driven.
Yeah, he's more driven and he's well-trained physiologically.
Okay, he is well-trained physiologically, but he's more driven, and this means something to his community.
Exactly.
So how this driving, the why he's doing that also may play a role in him keeping that, because it's something important. It's not something like just, I'm not just finishing any paper. I finish a paper to nature.
That's the relationship of the placebo effect and the monk. I mean, if just believing their simple start pill makes a difference, imagine if you're thinking you're self-immolating yourself in the name of humanity. You know, I mean, of course, that's exactly what I'm talking about. But what Marcelo is saying is a very, now I got Marcelo's question. He say, to have a conscious will to do it's not enough. If I try it, I'll try to jump in the swimming pool as fast as possible. I'll start try to, I don't know, I'll start rolling at the carpet, try to get rid of the flames. Of course, you have to have training. Yeah, that's why I'm a capacitarian in terms of morals. I mean, I can't ask more of a monk than of, I don't know, someone that is addicted to crack, that have his dopaminergic super highs completely compromised. This guy cannot control himself, but the monk can control himself. That's why I'm capacitarian. I always had this conversation with Renato. I have to ask more for people that are capable of more. You have to ask less about people that are capable of less. Otherwise, you cannot be in accordance of the rule of law. I mean, that's why we have 18 years old as a majority, for example. I mean, actually, it was supposed to be like 30. Let them form the whole frontal lobes perfectly, you know, I don't know. But that's why I'm a capacitarian in terms of morals. Because I think we can ask more for people that are capable of more, have to ask less of. Imagine we were doing like a organizing committee. You can ask a student to do like the work of a professor. It's obvious. They cannot assume this responsibility. They assume a lot of responsibilities and they did great. But I mean, morals is about to ask for each level of capacity, the best they can do. That's exactly what I think. Can we close that and then we go for lunch, because I'm concerned of the security guards. Was it too bad? I finished this talk 5 in the morning, and then the people from the reception started to call. Adina's flight is 2 hours delayed. Santiago is already there. We know that Jose Manuel landed, but he's in immigration. Oh, let's.
So just because Sinara send a last question, and I would not be happy with myself if I didn't ask it. So Gabriel, what is the main result of the gift experiment? I mean, which is the main conclusion you drove from this experiment?
Women are faster than men. No, seriously. No, look, of course, to say about the main result, I had to go through all the EEG analysis. But the main result from what I'm showing is the behavior results is that when you have external factor as money as a constraint, we have a completely inverted correlation between first person, second person, third person. And the freedom that you have when you are deciding just based on hedonic motivations, pleasure, you're kind of completely free. So that's why this is the fastest. But when you're talking about negotiating your pleasure with external constraint and a strong constraint as price, this correlation is completely inverted. So that's my point about levels of freedom. The more constrained you are, the less freedom you have. So that gives me the opportunity to cite Hume again. Hume says that free man is the one that is not in chains, but he says, he sees that as a binary predicate. Or I'm free or I'm in chains. I think the chains are not 0 and 1. You can be more or less constrained. And the less constrained you are, the more you are your own self. The more constrained you are, the more you have to negotiate in the environment. I think that's a pretty clear, hard to dispute claim. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Gabriel.